So we got Blender opened up again. Now let's talk about nodes. Basically, we all know in cycles you use principal BSDF, but what are we going to be using in Octane? Well, if we come over here to our guy and go to objects, we could see there's another node over here called universal material. We used to have standard material, but since the introduction of universal material, not a lot of people use that. And I would advise everyone who's using it, please switch to universal material. So let me just make another sphere over here and I'll just isolate it. Now we will enlarge our section and put it on render view. And shade smooth, and as soon as I click on add a new material, automatically we'll get the universal material. Now this might look a bit intimidating just because of the sheer size of the node, but let me break it down what you could do with it. So starting from the top, we have transmission, which is basically going to be a glass. Let's say if we want to make this into a glass, what we're going to be doing is going to transmission, and either we could add in a gray color or an RGB color or even values. What I like to do is go for RGB color because this is the most effective way we could tint it in any color that we want. And just to see the effect more prominently, we'll go to our albedo, which is basically our base color, and I'll put it towards black. And if I reduce the roughness, we could see it's a transparent glass. And now what we could do is take this glass and put in any sort of shade that we want. So that's transmission for you. And obviously we have metallic, pretty self-explanatory, then the roughness. So yeah, a little bit of frosted glass that we got going around over here. Now coming down towards the tint, we could also change the metallic tint if we are trying to make it metal. Then we have the IOR, and this is strictly for the glass. Let's say I want to make it 1.35. Boom. You know what? I'll just reduce the roughness so we could see it better. Let me just put it back to 1.5, and we actually have a directional map over here as well. So what we could do is, let's say we add in, where is the gradient? We could just go to search and add in a gradient map, and we could readjust this however we want. I'll just delete this for now. Coming towards the metal reflection. Now we could go for artistic or even IOR or RGB IOR. So what does that mean? Well, basically in a lot of industry standard render engines, you could either go for the artistic one or the physically based accurate one. So I'll be making further videos on this topic on my channel, so yeah, subscribe. Now coming down, we also have caustics. So if I click on allow caustics and we just add in this thing over here, we can see we're getting caustics all over the place. So if I turn them off, not that much. But if I turn them on, we could properly see caustics coming around over here. And then comes the coding and roughness. So what is this? If I just bump it up, we can see we are getting a thin line over here. And same goes for the sheen. I mean, obviously this is a glass, so we couldn't see it properly, but if I increase the roughness, there you go. I'll just put this over here. And if we scroll down even further, we have the roughness, and also we have a bump for the sheen as well. So yeah, you could always use that. Okay, now coming towards the thin film. Now this is something that Cycle doesn't have. You have to use a lot of nodes to make it, but just check this out. Like, dude, this is something good. And if I stretch it all the way up, we'll be getting a lot of color distortions right inside of the glass. So yeah, that's thin film for you. And obviously you can change the IOR to get different results depending on what you're looking for. Now coming down towards the medium. Now this is the place where you're going to be adding your volumes and scattering and everything. So let's say we want to add some depth into this one. What we are going to be doing is, if I come over here and just add in a random walk, and then I decrease the density to 0.1, and I just shine a light through it. Let me just add in an area light. I'll go GX, Shift T, scale it all the way up. And if I increase it to zero point 0.5, we could see we're getting a lot of volume scattering going around inside of it. And we could also add in a noise pattern just to give us different variations, but you get the basic idea. And let's say if we want to add in like subsurface scattering, what we could do is, if we come over here, we'll put the transmission from specular to diffuse. And for this to, let's say 10, 100, and if I put this to 3D cursor and take our light rotation Z, now we can see we are getting proper subsurface scattering over here on our object. So you could always use this, and just to thin up the glass we could put on effect shadows and effect alpha, so now it'll behave nicely. And we also have bump over here. So let me just add in a noise over here. Let's say if we add in cinema 4D noise, I'll just plug it into our bump and use 4D noise, and I'll open the UV transform and the projection, and I just scale it way down like that, and I take the bump and put it to 1. Yep, now we can see it. Perfect. That looks really good. And the biggest thing of all, if we plug it into our normals, we get the same effect. Alrighty, now coming towards displacement. Now in displacement, we actually have two options. Either we could use a vertex displace or a texture displace. And these are like the most powerful tools that Octane can give you right now. Now, if we come over here to our object, let me show you guys one thing. I mean, we have like the basic amount of vertices that you get with a UV sphere. So if I come over here to displacement and add in a texture displace, and for example, if I add in any image that we could use for displacement, let me just find one. Okay, so I got bridge opened up over here. For example, if we want to use this texture as our displacement, I'll just go to my files, and then I'll just drag and drop this, and I'll plug it into our texture over here. Something did happen, but just to get the full effect, we'll have to put it on 4K if you're using a 4K texture. And if I increase the height, my viewport is getting a bit slow, but hey, like getting these level of displacement right now with a limited amount of vertices, dude, that's pretty bonkers for me. And even if I put down the mid level a bit and put this to, let's say, 0.01, and for example, let's say we got the distortion, we really like it, but it's a bit too jagged or edgy. How can we fix it? Well, right under this node is a thing called filter type. So we'll just have to put it to Gaussian and put this amount to 4. Usually this fixes all of the issues that you might be having, but if it becomes too smooth, just decrease it back to like 2 or 3. Look at that. Like, dude, whenever I use this feature, it always boggles me. Anyways, moving on towards the next thing. So that's like one type of displacement that we always use. The second one is actually gonna be the vertex displays. Now, about the vertex displays, what can we use it with? Well, we could use it with all of the noise that we have, like cinema 4D noise, fractal noise, all of those noises. So, if I just directly plug it into this one, obviously it's gonna blow up a bit. But if I take the subdivision level, or better yet, if I come over here and decrease the amount of it, we could see how well it's affecting. And let's say, for instance, it's getting a bit too edgy for us. We could always add in more subdivision levels. So let me just zoom out before the viewport explodes. I'll put it to 2. Boom. Look at that. This is a whole nother level. And obviously we could increase the height according to what we're making right now. And the mid levels. So mid levels and the height, these are like the two things that you need to mess around with just to get your desired results. So height is basically how high the map should go, and the mid level takes everything and just tries to compress it back together. Now let me just unplug this so our viewport can be a bit more snappy. Now coming towards the smooth shadow, if by any chance you're getting like hard edges, you can always just take this. We're not getting it right now, so yeah, let's not sacrifice our render time. Now coming towards priority, according to the material that you prioritize the most, you'll have to change the amount from over here. I'm not gonna mess around with this one because we're gonna be using these for the practical examples. So yeah, now moving towards emission. So if I come over here, we have 3 different options. It's the black body emission, the texture emission, and the emission switcher. So let's see what these do. So if we come over here to the black body emission, obviously we could see everything is white. So let me just isolate it. And for the texture, we could just increase it. And we have a whole temperature scale over here. Let's say if I put it to 1500, we'll get a yellow texture. I'll just put it over here so we could see the color better. But if I go to like 2500, it's like warm white. And if you go to 4500, it's somewhere in the middle. And if you go to 6500, we're gonna get pure white. So yeah, and obviously the more you play around with it, the more effects you can get. Then surface brightness, I don't know what it does, but it just goes like boop. Keep instance power. So in Octane, whenever you scale up any sort of light or any sort of emission material, here, let me show you. When you scale it up, it increases the value of it. So just to keep it safe, keep instance to power. Now let me just put it back over here. And obviously let's put it to 6500. Now coming towards the distribution, like how much area should be affected. We could plug in a gobo, we could plug in a noise for this, and coming down towards the sample rate, like how many samples are we willing to give to this slide over here. Okay, now coming towards the light pass ID. So for like cycle users, this is light linking for you in Octane. So you could just send in any amount that you want, and if you want that light to not affect anything, let's say if I just move it over here and I put this to 1500 and I put it to light ID number 2, and for safe measures I don't want this light to affect to this guy, I'll come over here to the object tab, scroll down, and we have this light pass mask, and if I click on number 2, it's not affecting our guy. But if I move this light towards the ground, we could clearly see it's affecting this part over here. So yeah, just wanted to mention that out as well. And obviously if I just turn this back on, go to our orb. Now, if we don't want it to be visible on the diffuse area, boom, we could hide it. We don't want it visible to be on the specular area, boom, we could hide it. And if we have like a VDB or like a volume scattering going around and we don't want it to be visible over there, boom. Okay, now transparent emission. Let's say if you have a glass and you don't want it to shine into that, boom, just hide that. Cast shadows, and if we're going to be using like an object for emission and we don't want it to make shadows, so yeah, we could also hide that as well. So that's black body emission. Now coming towards the texture emission, which is basically the same. You could just plug in your texture in it and it does the same thing. So now moving towards shadow catcher. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Now it's just gonna cast all of the shadows. See? Now the AOV nodes and the material layers. These are like really complex topics, so we're gonna be discussing them further down the course. But hey, this is like the basic intro of using the universal material. It's not that hard. What you need to do is give it some time, experiment around, and you'll be good with it. And with that, we're done with this chapter, so I'll be seeing you in chapter 3.